Good morning and welcome back to 4 Aussie Acres. It's been hot. I'll cut to the chase. It's been really, really hot. We've had about 10 days over 40 degrees and things are looking all the worse for it. The temperature is about to step down for perhaps a week, and hopefully we are through the worst of summer now. We're a week into February. Today's predicted to be 34 degrees, and then I think we've got a week of about 30 degrees, maybe mid-30s. With some rain predicted for tomorrow, maybe up to 10 mil of rain. But yeah, 10 days over 40 degrees doesn't do anything any good as far as I can tell, including the trees that we have planted here. So I thought what I would do is take you around the place and just show you how heat has affected the various trees that we've planted. Because that could be useful for people who are maybe, starting a small holding or just otherwise contemplating planting trees in a really hot environment. And you can kind of see how those trees fare. So I'll start you up here in this little garden area here. This is the space where there are lots and lots of bulbs, by the way. And so the idea is to create an area here which is much more shaded by these deciduous trees, so the cherries and the maples and the oaks and the elms, and then have it sort of underplanted with the spring bulb. So this is a little English oak. There is something getting in there and gnawing at it, which is very annoying, even though I've got this sort of covering around it. But anyway, in terms of the overall health of this tree and how it's been affected by the heat, you would say pretty much not at all. It is incredibly robust. This is a deciduous tree, obviously, and it just seems to be very, very heat tolerant. I think you could pretty much say drought tolerant at this point. And it's also really not impacted by cold either. So I would say the English oak is really very hardy. This is a Chinese elm, and usually it is okay with the heat, but you can see that this run of 10 days has really knocked it back. I think it'll be okay, but you can see that it's very it has been damaged by the heat. It is now looking pretty heat stressed. You can tell that from sort of the position of the leaves, which are sort of hanging down, and it's pretty sad all in all. So I think it's heat tolerant to an extent, but extended heat at high heat will definitely knock it back. You can see here these juvenile eucalyptus leaves, which are turquoise. I don't know if the camera will pick it up fully, but certainly against the dry brown grass, they look pretty spectacular. Looks especially good as you sort of then move up and see the sort of the greens and the oranges which come into the elm tree, and obviously in autumn that becomes all orange and yellow, and colours are especially nice. This gives you some idea of how warm it has actually been. We've lost a lot of water. That little pardalote there. See if I can get him. Gonna go down and have a drink. So you can see why we put that papyrus there. It's to give little birds like this little pardalote plenty of cover so they can come down and drink from this pond. We've got 2 white cherry trees in this area. For the most part, I would say they're okay. They certainly haven't been burnt like the elm has. However, the position of the leaves on the tree suggests that it's a bit heat stressed, and I would say it, relative to what it normally looks like, it's certainly a bit heat affected. There's two of these, and sort of the same deal. That one's looking a bit better, but you can see that for the most part the leaves don't singe as they have done on the elm and on some of the other trees that I'll show you. So white cherry trees, I would say, yeah, pretty heat tolerant. Little oak down here. There's a video of me planting these in the dead of winter. There's actually two little oaks in here, and I planted them really close together with a view to sort of getting them to compete a bit and perhaps grow a little quicker. Both of them were looking pretty sad when I moved them over. They had constantly been chewed in the other spot. But for the most part, not heat affected at all. So oaks, as a general rule, I think are extremely heat tolerant, perhaps among the most heat tolerant of all of the trees that we have planted here. And the same for this evergreen French oak or holm oak. It withstands heat, no problems at all. This one did get a bit of height on it, and then because I didn't take proper care of it and wrap it, I think kangaroos got in and really ate it back down almost to the ground. It's come back, so it's a very hardy tree in all respects, I suppose, but no issues at all with the heat. This is a different kind of cherry, so I'm still up in the same area here. I think this is a Lupin's cherry. And it is heat affected. You can see it's some of the leaves have definitely yellowed off. They're sort of a bit droopy. I've actually given this a couple of litres of water because it was looking really bad when I got here yesterday. So yeah, there's obviously degrees of affectation in the various species of cherry tree. And this one is a bit more affected. On the whole, though, I would say that cherries do seem to be pretty heat tolerant. This is a little maple tree. I actually can't remember what kind of maple it is. You can see its leaves have been really singed and are basically dead, so it will drop some of those leaves now, but still has plenty of green in it. It's pretty well known, I think, that maples are a very fine tree. They're not really suited to this hot and dry climate. But in fairness to this little tree, when it went in, it wasn't well. It encountered a really hot first year, and I thought it had actually died. It has come back every year, and it seems to be putting on a little bit of growth. It's not thriving, but it's put on a little bit of growth. And I think, it's doing okay, but all in all, maples tend to not be terribly heat tolerant. I think they can survive it, but they will not thrive. It put on a huge amount of growth. The jacaranda tree, we brought it out here, which did okay for a long while, but the seasons really knock it out. The concern with jacarandas is that they do not like the cold, and so it gets really affected by cold temperatures. You can see it's mostly dead up the top, but reality is Mark really likes jacarandas. He very much wants one. I bought this as a little sapling from a big sort of, warehouse type hardware store here in Australia. Having said that, it remains alive, and each year when we think it is absolutely dead, it does reshoot from somewhere and come back, although you can see the foliage on it now, not looking so great. It's okay, but it's you wouldn't say this is an example of prime health by any means. Now, I'll be honest, I have no idea what this tree is. I cannot recall the name. I bought it years ago from a bulk discount nursery that doesn't really specialize in trees at all, but basically they had a clearance sale of, you know, $5 saplings, and it was one of the saplings that I picked up. Had it in the courtyard for a year or so. It put on a fair degree of growth. When I sort of take a picture of it and ask Google what it is, it tells me that it's a curry leaf tree or a curry tree of some kind. It's absolutely not. It has no scent at all. I want to kind of say that it's, you know, chinchilla or cinnamon or, you know, something along those lines in terms of the name as far as I can recall it. But possibly that's not right at all. In any event, it's a very fine looking tree. It's deciduous. It takes on a lot of autumn color. It almost goes completely red. So it's a very pretty tree, but very, very fine leaves. And amazingly, it seems not to be affected by heat at all. So I really do wish I knew what it was. If anybody does know what it is, please drop me a comment and tell me. It's kind of a close-up of the leaves. As I say, it's deciduous, and it goes orange and then finally red in the autumn before it loses all of its leaves, and then comes back again. Wish I could show you the pond now. About 5 of those little birds have gone in. I think they're either fairy wrens or, you know, pardalotes, or perhaps combination, but they're all in that little pond now, which is why it's super important for us to make sure that there's always some water in it, because now we've got birds that really rely on there being water there. So I guess quite apart from you know, the effect it has on the trees, temperatures, you know, 40 and above, and certainly when they hit 50 degrees, as you know, there's some talk about them doing. I mean, some places in Victoria, as you've just seen, have hit 50 degrees.
It's really hot in Australia right now. In fact, Victoria has never been
50 degrees to Victoria over the weekend. Emergency services are warning of intense conditions, which could worsen what's already been a devastating
49.7 yesterday at Pooncarie in New South Wales. Yesterday also did see records broken at Renmark and the Victorian record broken at Warrpeep and Hopeton. But we are waiting for Oyen to come through this morning just to see how that compares. But certainly very hot. Temperatures again pushing 50 degrees today.
And there's some suggestion that maybe that sort of, we move into a space where that becomes the norm. You start to wonder about the viability of living in a space like this. I think you can, but there's no question about it. Those temperatures present a real challenge. They're pretty uncomfortable, energy intensive in the sense of keeping systems going, keeping cool. So you definitely have to throw that into the mix, I think. It's basically just a harsh and challenging environment. These are 2 wattle trees. They're not sort of, they would be native, but they're not the sort of species that we tend to see around here so much. They have more of a weeping habit, and they don't flower, unfortunately, as spectacularly as many of the wattles that we have around here do. They get a little bit heat affected, but for the most part they are okay, and they're obviously fine in that spot because they're now putting on a fair degree of growth. This is a pine tree here, a radiata pine tree, not heat affected at all as far as I can tell. Really putting on a lot of growth now. Actually one of my favorite trees on the whole place. I may have said in another video, but I found this tree in a pine plantation not too far from here, and it was growing together with another one, another tiny little sapling. I mean, less than 5 centimeters in height. It was actually growing in sort of the road which ran through the pine forest, and so it would have been run over eventually. I was walking through there. I pulled up these 2 little sapling pines. I happened to have a Glad bag, like a plastic sandwich bag with me. I put them in there to sort of keep them humid with a couple of drops of water, and then planted them out when I got home, put them on my windowsill in my bedroom and kept them in that plastic bag. And they looked like they were dead for quite some time. The other one did die, and then I realized that this one just had the slightest little tinge of green in it, and that indicated that it was alive, and it actually rejuvenated and came back. I then put it in the courtyard for a little while and let it have a little bit of growth. It got to about 45 centimeters, and I was doing some work at a hospital over a Christmas period, and I wanted to sort of cheer up the ward that I was on. So I took this tree into the hospital and decorated it as the ward Christmas tree, and the patients really loved it and took great care of it, which was wonderful. And then I brought it back to the courtyard, put on a fair bit of growth such that I knew that it was time to move it out here. It didn't do much for a couple of years probably. It really sulked, and I thought probably it would die. And in any event, now it has decided that it's happy in situ. It's obviously hit some groundwater, and there's enough nutrients here, and it's well above head height now. I would say it's possibly 3 or 4 meters tall, and yeah, doing really well. And yep, heat tolerant, definitely heat tolerant. This is a mulberry tree which has, I don't know, it may well be in the wrong spot. I think it probably is in the wrong spot. It's not doing very well. It hasn't put on much growth since we got it. However, I don't think it's the heat that has affected this. And actually, as I look at the few leaves that it has left, those leaves don't look like they are particularly affected by the heat either. So I think this is just generally the wrong spot for a mulberry tree, although others in the area have told us that mulberry trees take a very long time to establish themselves, but that once they do, they are very, very hardy and prolific fruiters. And so the advice that I got from locals was to leave the tree here, and that eventually, and it might take 10 years or so, eventually it'll take off. These are Lombardy poplars, which I planted out possibly 4 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago. They have all come from our courtyard at home, all nursery purchased. And while things do keep eating them, when I say things, I mean rabbits and sheep, for the most part they are doing fine. And the heat, it does knock them back a bit, like they look a bit sad, but the leaves aren't singed, and they seem to bounce back no problems at all. So Lombardy poplars, definitely heat tolerant. And then adjacent to the Lombardis here, I've got various fruit trees. So these are damson plums, I think. A European plum anyway. No problems really with the heat. I think the fruit that was on this one did drop off, or it was taken by birds. But for the most part, no trouble. A little liquid amber here does get a bit heat affected, I would say. I've given this some water, and it's certainly all the better for a little bit of water. And now that I've been able to protect it from the sheep with a bit more sort of wiring to stop it being pruned constantly, it seems to like that much more. So for the most part, doing okay. And then this is another plant, and you can actually see there is fruit on this. I think actually that is a damson. The fruit's still rock hard, so I haven't taken it. But in terms of the tree itself, the tree is mostly fine. I don't think it's very heat affected at all. So plums, as a general rule, I think are pretty good. This is definitely another favourite tree. It is a maple tree, and specifically an Acer rubrum. We had it in the courtyard for many years, and our little dog is buried in this area here, and he often sat under that tree in the courtyard. So it's a very special tree. As a maple, it is heat affected. It does okay, so I would say it's moderately heat tolerant, but when you get that run of days over 40, with no water at all, it really starts to show the sign of heat stress, and you can see those leaves are tinged and starting to look a bit spotty and brown now. It actually looked much worse than this yesterday. I've given it about 5 litres of water, in fact more, I would say 10, 15 litres of water even, I can't remember exactly how much it got, but it's picked up on account of that bit of water. But the leaves are just very fine, and yeah, at that heat it's going to struggle. This is a forsythia, and again, it got a bit of water yesterday, but it struggles in the heat. It survives, but it knocks it back quite a lot. And I think the point to note is that even when the heat doesn't kill the trees, so when they are stressed like this, and you know the leaves sort of singe and are downturned, the tree is obviously then more susceptible to various diseases and other pathogens in the environment that just might affect it, perhaps even to being gnawed by things, eaten by things. They just don't have that resilience when they're sort of in this depressed, sort of stressed state. So it may be that the tree just ultimately succumbs or can't sort of manage to thrive in its environment, and ultimately just gives up the ghost. This is another plum tree, and like all of the plums, I would say doing fine. So plums, heat tolerant. This is a different kind of maple, and it's faring even worse than the Acer rubrum. I think this is Acer, it could be Acer palmatum. It has a smaller leaf, and you can see literally the leaves are just singed on the tree. This is probably the area where I'm most sort of shocked by the effect of the heat. So here is a pear tree, and you can see it's really looking very sad, and it normally does not. So you can see literally the leaves are burned. And the whole tree is just looking grim. It's dropped most of its fruit. I don't think birds took this. I think it actually dropped its fruit. It is a similar story for this pear tree here. This is a different variety of pear. It almost never has a problem with heat. It never looks this sad, but when we've come out here this week, we see literally burned leaves, and it's obviously not feeling very well. It also dropped any fruit that it had, which I imagine just would have been, essentially cooked on the tree. Roses, for the most part, actually, I mean, you can see some singeing there. I don't know whether that's from heat or not. I think it probably is, but roses are pretty hardy, so they've done okay. What have we got here? We've got Chuck, who's taking the opportunity to have a bit of a rub. The rule with Chuck is that he's allowed to rub against you, but you're not allowed to rub against him mostly. Sometimes he'll tolerate it, but most days he won't. This peach tree, which surprisingly is managing to hold on to its fruit. I expect birds are going to come down here and grab this shortly. And maybe I should even take the fruit off to stop that from happening, because they cause a bit of damage to the structure of the tree, but in fact you can see they probably already have. But I would say this is reasonably heat tolerant. Nectarine, so this sort of stone fruit, managing to hold on to its fruit, but the tree generally, no real problems from the heat. So nectarines and peaches are quite heat tolerant. And finally, this apple tree here, little bit of singeing that I can see. Apples, as a general rule, obviously very cold tolerant, and they need cold to be able to set their fruit, but they are also very heat tolerant, and we have 5 or so apple trees down the front, and for the most part they're doing okay as well. So apples, as a general rule, heat tolerant. Okay, so predicted 34 today. but at the shed we're reading, what's that, 42, maybe just a tad over 42. That thermometer's in direct sun, so in the shade it wouldn't be that, but I'm pretty sure it's more than 34 and probably inching towards 40 in the shade. So it's continuing, this run of warm weather.
There have been heaps of local records broken too. Here's the list of places that have so far set an all-time record for their location. Australia has been hotter though. Spoiler, it's been over 50 degrees. Our hottest ever recorded temperature is officially 50.7 degrees.
The more temperatures rise, the more effort it'll take to adapt and limit damages. This will require labor and resources and time that we don't have for other things.